Hey everyone, welcome back. This is officially episode 1 of Across from the Cross. And I wanted to start out being as someone who is going to be sitting in that chair and inviting people to sit in this couch. I wanted to sit in the couch and have you get to know me first, because I don't want to be the cliche pastor guy TM that's sitting in the couch and just searching for trauma bonding or clips with guests, whoever, and just have a blank mask. So I want us to get to know each other. And I had a couple ideas about how to go about this. One of the ideas was stretching this out over a couple episodes. But then I was like, what is this? Right? Last episode. What is this? This isn't the Mario show. This is Across from the Cross. This is Jesus meeting people on this couch where they were at. And so this probably won't be too long. And I know some of you that know me and know the story I'm about to tell chuckled a little bit just now. But I don't know. I just want to tell a little bit about myself before I sit and listen to people tell their stories. So if you've heard what I'm about to say, we'll see you next episode. But if you're on episode 2 or 5 or 50 and you're going, who is this guy? Hi. Again, I'm Mario, and this is my story. So, as I said last episode, I grew up right here in this church, on the stage, playing these drums, running around these halls, climbing on these pews, hiding under these pews, climbing on this roof, looking at this very same stained glass. I mean, this place is beautiful. And I grew up with a loving family. All my family lived right here in Chico, essentially. My dad's side of the family, they were Stockton, Joaquin Valley, area, San Fernando Valley. I don't even know if that's right. And I'm gonna do the least a bit of cutting that I can, so I sound like a buffoon where I need to. But I grew up just surrounded by love, right? Very, very tribal living. It takes a village. Even right here in this church, I mean, we say every Sunday that it takes 5 adults who will love each kid unconditionally for the rest of their lives. And let me tell you, ain't that true for me. I was wild, but I knew how to play the game, right? I got good grades, and I got in trouble at the same time. My uncle was my father figure, was the person that, you have your father, who is, the guy that provided you with half your DNA, but you have your dad. And my Uncle Keith, he's my dad. And he raised me like his own son. And he taught me the school of hard knocks, but he also taught me that love comes in all forms, and love, it sometimes it has rough edges, but at the end of the rough edges is an edge, and you get to this fluffy guy in him that has such a big heart, and he taught me so much of myself and life skills, even through being a punk kid, that I learned how to be the man that I am. And my mom taught me through being a single mom and her hard work ethic what it takes to put your nose to the grindstone and provide for your kids and provide for your family and keep putting your front foot in front of the other and keep saying yes. And I grew up in a mobile home park, and we didn't have the coolest, nicest, shiniest stuff, but we always had what we needed. And I love my mom for that. And my mom never shied away from pouring out her heart into every single thing that she did. Whether she made it to the wrestling tournaments or not, I always felt love from her. And that always stuck with me. It's like, this world can swallow you up and spit you out. And especially when you have a parent that's not there. And God rest my dad's soul, my father's soul. He was battling his own demons. And so that was my childhood, is dealing with my father, my dad, my father being out of the picture. And the one surviving uncle that I did have ended up passing away very young in my life after spending a summer with him and latching on to him quickly. And that, that was a big loss for me. That was the first time that I really shook my fist at the sky and was angry at God. Also at that time was when I started going to this church, right around 8 years old, and also at that time there was some other traumatic events that started happening in my life, and without getting too into the weeds, because it's not my place to talk about it, and I've done the healing, but it involved some SA, and it's something that I dealt with, and it's something that I compartmentalized, and then I ended up pushing down in the form of being the charismatic kid and the center of attention throughout school and throughout junior high and high school, and performing arts and marching band, because I had this other side of me that I was already wrestling with, this deep-rooted traumatic self that I didn't like, and I was pushing away, and I didn't want people to see. So I was the happy guy and the charismatic guy and the bravado, and I did wrestling and sports, but I was also the band geek kid, and I was also the kid getting in trouble and getting in fights and doing dumb stuff, and I was everywhere. I had my set friends, but I could blend in anywhere in any social circle because I loved everybody and I wanted to be accepted by everybody, but be tied to nobody. And so this attitude carried into the military. At the end of high school, I ended up having an injury, and it ruined my wrestling scholarship dreams. and so all three of my uncles who served in Vietnam were all Marines. And so I said, I'll join the Marines. Hoorah! And serve my country and be somebody. And that's what I'm going to do. And I had so much support immediately. My family, both my uncles, they were like, yeah, that's you, man. That is you, Mario. you're going to be a lifer, all this stuff, and it's going to be great. And so I joined and almost immediately got bit by the injury bug and started getting the psychological berating from not my friends around me, but the command around me and the higher ups and just the murmurs, you're perma-light duty, you're never gonna mount to anything, why don't you just go home, I'm gonna make sure that you get out earlier, you get med-sept, and this is keeping it TOS, for lack of a better term, and keeping it PG. So I started drowning my sorrows with alcohol because I couldn't do anything else. Drugs were zero tolerance, but alcohol in the Marine Corps was a badge of honor. And if you weren't a six-pack deep by noon o'clock on any given weekend day, you were slacking. Even PT during the weekday, you get up and you grab the hair of the dog that bit you and you get on the road if you have a hangover. Smoking, a couple stogs before you hit the road opens up the lungs. And this just started the process of becoming a career alcoholic. And it compounded with me getting out of the Marines, going straight into college, and then hiding my trauma in the alcohol, then getting into college and being in California. Well, one thing that you can count on in California is being one of the states where marijuana is legal. So started smoking by the barrel and eventually got in a relationship that ended up being horrible for both of us, but then ended up getting into a prestigious acting program at UCSB. Their Bachelor's of Fine Arts and Acting program, where about 70 of us auditioned to get into the program. 13 of us actually got into the program and accepted in, and then 9 of us graduated. You could be dropped at any time. You could be put on probation. I was on probation till like halfway through my junior year because they kept saying I wasn't good enough and I was trying too hard, which I was, because I was drowning my sorrows. My ego was still the size of Texas and California combined. And I was trying to be the best. When I first got to college, one of my first office hours, my favorite professor, who I won't name, sat me down and said, "What do you want out of this? What do you want out of this program?" And I said, "I want to be the best." I flat out, I thought it was a test. I said, "I want to be the best. I want to get out of here, and I don't want to be Brando. I want to outdo everything that did. I want to make Brando look like, another just B-list person. I want to up, and I want to get all the awards and then go disappear." And he looked me in the eyes and he said, "You're never going to do that." I was like, "What?" He said, "You're never going to do that." He goes, let me back up. You may be able to do that, but you're never going to be satisfied. Because if that's what you're chasing, it's always going to be more, the next Oscar, the next $1 million, the next, you're never going to be satisfied. He goes, if you're in this program to become a better human and a better artist, that is where you need to be. And I didn't get it until probably the end of my junior year. Then I started opening up because I was still trying to solve the puzzle instead of play with the puzzle, because I was still packing my trauma down and pushing it away with drugs, alcohol. And what I didn't realize is I was cashing checks. I was writing checks, rather, that I was going to have to cash later. And soon enough, here comes Mr. Mr. Devil Horns, the accuser himself, with a whole bunch of checks. My senior year, the unspeakable happens. The world stops. I think we all know what I'm talking about. I don't know if it's TOS, so I don't want to say exactly, but the elephant in the room, number 19. And before that, I had added a certain fungus to my chemistry set. So now I have the liquids, the green smoke, and now a magical fungus that are all in my body. And I get a call, a text, or an email rather, that school has been canceled. Well, I decide, well, what better day to ingest and partake in the rest of what I have, because the world's going to end, or things are, and I don't have to go to school, so I do all the stuff that I have left, and I go on a journey, and it's not it's not a movie trilogy, it's a nightmare. And I wake up after this 8-hour nightmare. At the end of it, this amethyst lion that's on my forearm, I don't know if you could see it, tells me that I'm the Son of God. Well, I'm a rational human being still at this point, sort of. I'm not going to tell anyone about that. So I decide to put that away and lock it and put away the key. And then I decide to move to LA, split up with my ex, get rid of the past, and move to LA, because I'm going to be the one person. I'm going to be the one person during the world ending that's going to, despite actual established celebrities not getting any work, I'm going to get work, and I'm going to prove everyone wrong and become famous right now. So I go down, and become the worst version of myself that I've ever been in my life up to this point. I'm angry at the world. I'm angry at everybody. I'm playing a part. I'm making people believe that I believe in this political view and that political view, depending on who's talking to me. I'm horrible to be around. And when I get down there, after using people and my body as I see fit, I hit a breaking point. And after creating a yarn wall of a detective yarn wall in my room in Los Angeles, I decide that if I'm the second coming and the world's going to end, then I need to save it. So I open my phone, and Zion National Park is a 6-hour drive away. Well, what are the odds of that? And so I leave my job immediately, get in my car. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Take the clothes on my back. I drive to Zion National Park. I get there. The gate's wide open. I drive in. There's a gate that's closed. I press the operator button. Operator lets me in. I go to this resort that's near in the back of the park near Angel's Landing. Go in. Try to say that I have a room reserved and lie. Lady sees right through my BS. Tells me I can't park in my car overnight. I go out. I have to make a decision. Park in my car, risk getting a $5,000 fee like she just told me, or go see what I need to do, start hiking now. So I start hiking now. Park my car, go start hiking in the dark. But I don't go where it says trail. I just start walking off trail. I start hiking straight up this mountain near Angel's Landing, off trail. It's not the main trailhead. It's a little bit down near the resort. And I get this compulsion after a little bit of hiking to remove my clothes. So I do that. I continue climbing, trudging through cactuses and sagebrush, and I get to a stopping point where I look around and God's not here, the angels aren't here. I'm like, did they miss the memo? So I just start walking back down. Maybe they'll catch me if I fall. Well, I ended up falling. Fell for about 10 feet or so. It tripped, and I hit a dead tree that had fallen over, and it was other healthy trees in the way, and knocked the wind out of me. And I got up, and I went, and I crawled back up a little bit of a ways, and then I dug a little hole, and I covered myself with some dirt, and I decided I'll just, sleep it off for a little bit. And morning came, sun rose, reality hit. I walked as far down as I could, started screaming for help. Tons of people are down. I mean, it's Angel's Landing in the Emerald Pool area. Its shuttles are bringing people in. You can't drive to this part of the park, so all these shuttles are bringing tourists, and they're sitting there. Their minds are just what is going on? And I'm just, I don't know how many feet up, screaming for help. And search and rescue finally come and get me. They give me some clothes. They give me some water. They hike me back down. I'm immediately met with handcuffs, get put in the back of an ambulance, get driven to a hospital. My wounds get tended to. They take me to jail. Now, when I first get to the jail, it's just a drunk tank. I'm in with a couple other guys sitting on a concrete bench. They don't even, do any sort of booking. They just keep me for overnight. Wake up the next morning. Release me on my own recognizance. Okay. I wander around the business park that the jail was in. Wander into a business. Grab a baseball uniform that had my age's number on it. Wander back out. Come back to the jail. End up getting a ride in a transport bus. An inmate transport bus. Just poked my head in. Guard there. He says, Dwayne? I say, yeah, sure. Come on in. Gives me a ride. He says, I'll take you to wherever you need to go, but we're going to the airport, right? I said, yeah, sure. Takes me go. I see a sign that says Washington or something, and that's where my ex ended up moving to. So I was like, maybe my ex is waiting on this exit, and maybe I can get a ride back with her. My brain is not making sense of my reality at this point. I don't know if you caught on. So I get off, I go, and there's this little trailhead. It says Devil's Canyon. Mind you, I'm still in the belief that maybe I'm the Messiah. But Devil's Canyon is a little preview to where we're headed. Okay? So I get off, go to this trailhead. Guy parks the bus. I go into this bathroom. I change over to my baseball uniform. Now I'm in a bright white, it's like 3 sizes too big because I was much skinnier than I am now, baseball uniform with orange Crocs. And I just start walking down this trail. And I walk like 5 miles in May, late May, early June, St. George, Utah weather. And eventually I go and I find this dry creek bed, but there's a puddle, and I try to walk on the water, fail at that. Spoiler alert, obviously. And then these kids find me. They give me a ride on their truck to some cops. A cop. The cop says, hey, I heard you're wandering around and you lost your shoes. And he's looking at this guy with scabs all over my arms, on my face, hair about as long as I have, beard, a little bit bushier, and a bright white baseball uniform. So he takes me to a Burger King. I get some food. I can't remember anyone's phone number. Try to call somebody. I can't remember anyone's number. I start wandering around. I catch a bus. The bus takes me to a golf course. I walk the entire 18 holes of this golf course, waiting for my family to jump out of the bushes and surprise me. Doesn't happen. My mind is just, it's reeling. And I end up at the country club or the tea club or whatever of the, forget the name, but whatever, where they sell all the gear and stuff. And I just sit and I'm like, well, maybe I'll just wait for him. And I'm getting kind of ticked off at this point. So I'm like, don't they understand? I went up the mountain. I did the thing. Why has nothing changed here? And eventually, I just leave. The guy doesn't kick me out, but he tells me, yeah, you can't hang out here forever. And eventually, I just leave, and I start wandering around this neighborhood in St. George, and I meet this after knocking on like 4 or 5 doors, I meet this gal. And the question was always the same. My father sent me. My father sent me. And finally, knock on this door. My father said, "Oh, come on in." This gal, okay. And she feeds me, gives me some ravioli. I hang out with her friend or something that's in the garage, and he has like a pan flute, and he's playing me like the Lord of the Rings soundtrack or whatever. And it's just, everything is just so weird. And it was even weirder because I would ask if people had seen my father, because I had learned from my biological father that he had suffered similar bouts of what's called the Messiah complex, where people with bipolar, schizophrenia, different types of stuff would go through bouts of mania and believe that they were Jesus. So I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I guess I'll just wait here. And eventually I got tired of waiting. So I went down the road. I hopped the fence of this Best Western or Holiday Inn or something into the pool area and tried to sleep back there, but I knew I was going to get caught. Then I went to this gas station. At the gas station is where everything fell apart. It was a Texaco, and there was this big star on the sign. And this is where the human brain is your best friend and your worst enemy, especially when you've gone through trauma and when you try to self-medicate with substances. Because all the way up to this point, with very rare moments, I was still the second coming. And at any moment, Gabriel or Michael or Peter or someone would reveal themselves, and they would tell me it was all just a big prank and blah, 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 blah. And then we would get the show on the road, and they would drive me to, the Lake of Fire, whatever. But I sat down at this gas station, and I saw that star, and it was morning, and my brain did psychosis multiplication or addition or whatever. Psychosis math. Morning plus star. Morning star. I'm not Jesus. I'm the Antichrist. And it all makes sense now. I went up that mountain and I died. And this is hell. And I'm now in hell. Because I was a terrible person my whole life. I used women the way that I used them after the things that happened to me. Guilty. I used substances and defiled my temple that God gave me. Yeah, of course I'm not the second coming. I am the anti-second coming. And judgment and hellfire are happening right now. And I froze. And I was frozen in fear. And I could not move. And I was waiting for a meteor, everything, impact to happen. And the first thing that happened, I kid you not, obviously I was in a psychosis, but I remember lucidly things from all of the memories and everything that I have. I have the gift of, it's not it's not a curse. It's a gift of remembering all this stuff in the first person and the third person. First thing that happened after having this mind-melting realization, this couple or these friends roll up. It's a young gal, young guy. They're in a Mustang. They get out, and this guy, he's freaking out. He's, dude, no way. No way. I can't believe it's you. Oh, my. Oh. And then I'm just sitting there going, yeah. He goes, wow. Oh, and then he sees that I don't have shoes, and he goes, dude, please have my shoes. Please take my shoes. Take my shoes. And he takes off his Vans, checkered Vans, and he gives them to me. And I go, no. I can't accept these. I can't. Please don't give those to me. You know, whatever. And he goes, no, not even. I won't take no for an answer. And then walks away. And then his girlfriend or his friend comes up to me, sits beside me, puts her arm around me, grabs my head, pulls me in, and says, my son, everything's going to be all right. And cries for a moment with me, and then lets me go, gets up, gets back in the car. He comes out. I just can't believe it. And gets back in it, and they go away. And then the 24 hours of staying up because I'm waiting for people to stab, shoot, torture me, everything begins. Because the thing about psychosis is it's a reality. It's not just, oh, I kind of think that. It is your reality. It is what you believe is real. And I was frozen in fear. The cops came, they did a wellness check late at the night, and then the next day, going into the wee hours of the morning, one of the employees who was trying to help me came back to either start his shift or check in on me or whatever. And he came to offer me a ride. And he came to offer me help. And he said, hey, you're still here? And I said, I give up. Take me. Let's get this over with. He said, okay. I'm just here to help, man. Whatever he was saying. So he gets me in his car, and we go to another gas station, and for whatever reason, at this gas station, I hatched this idea that if I just, do the movie thing and knock him out and take his car, and that I could just get out of there and, drive home, and maybe God will be waiting at my house with my family or whatever. And didn't play out that way. We got in the car. I waited for the other cars to be gone. I turned to him, started to assault him. We got in what was a fight for both of our lives. For me, my mind wasn't right. And for him, he picked up, the worst hitchhiking scenario ever. I ended up getting his keys from him. Almost ending things. And immediately got apprehended by the cops. Pulled out of the parking lot of the gas station. Surrounded by cops. Get on the ground. Okay, complying. They put me back into their cruiser. Started driving me into familiar territory back to the jail. And then matters go from bad to worse, because then I have this epiphany that the jail, that's where they're trying to get me to. That's been the plan the whole time. Get me back to the jail. So once I get inside the jail, the first thing that I notice is the acronym on the back of the orange and white striped uniform, PCF. And I didn't really notice or care about it before. So I'm trying to think, Pacific Coast, and they put me in a booking cell. And my cellmate is reading this book called Baal, Prince of Demons, King of Demons, whatever it was. I look at and I go, that's an interesting book. What's that about? He goes, oh, yeah, it's this book about, this demon that comes to Earth, tricks everyone into making the people of Earth believe that he's actually God, and then he ends up being a demon. But then everyone kills him, and I don't know exactly the plot of the book, but it was like, the Jaws music or like the Hellraiser music started, and my pulse just started going up, and then things just started getting really creepy around. Like the guards were just seemed like they were walking back and forth very frequently, more than usual. And finally I asked, what's the name of this jail? And he goes, wasn't it obvious? It's purgatory. And my heart sunk. The name of the jail is Purgatory Correctional Facility in Hurricane or Hurricane, if you're from Utah. And what ensued next, I can only describe as full sensory, open-eyed, conscious hallucinations. I was in the jail cell. There was flashes of flames on the wall. I could hear screaming. I could hear pounding. I could hear bones crunching in the other cells. The screams were my family's voices. And I was now in hell. And I was hearing people being tortured because I was the one that caused Armageddon and caused the end of the world. And they would bring us food, and I would look at it, and that was one of the things that I believed, that it was either poison or it was my family members that had just gotten tortured and killed, and they turned into food. And so that's the power of the human mind that can do that to you. And eventually he ended up getting out of the cell because I was threatening to beat him up and the guards. I ended up getting nude in the cell and telling guards I would fight them and everyone in purgatory if that means I could escape. And ended up in the first time that I would try to do some self-deletion. Tried to shove my sock as far as I could and they came in and they got it out, and then I tried to hold my breath and close my mouth and stuff, and they broke some smelling salts, and they put me in a strap chair, threw me into solitaire, and I was in there for 2 weeks, I think. I mean, time stood still in there. They would bring me food and stuff, and that'd be the only time that I would see anyone, because it was just a glass pane and then a white wall in front of me with some blinds, and that was the receiving desk. And then it was just the white concrete wall here on the sides and behind me and below me, with like this rubber mat to sleep on and the turtle shell to wear. And eventually I got a lawyer, did everything pro bono, and I didn't tell him what was going on up here because I didn't want to be thrown in a loony bin and have the key thrown away, because I watched too many movies, and I was like, I don't want to be thrown in a sanitarium or whatever, and all this stuff that was going on in my head. And even though that's not true, but what had happened was I told him enough for him to start working my case, and I ended up getting out, picked up by my uncle, and on that 11.5-hour drive home, I told him what had happened. I told him the whole truth. And he goes, dude, you need to tell your lawyer all of that. And so I ended up telling my lawyer, and I told him everything, and he said, hey, we're going to, do this, and this for the judge. You need to get into this program. And so when I got back home, I started taking things seriously. I started going to the VA. I started getting help and engaged with mental health services and doing all the things. But pretty much right away, I started slipping back into substances. Although I wasn't going to touch the fungus, right? Because that was the problem. So it was just a little puff here, a little sip there. And eventually I found myself doing, key bums of the white powdery stuff, because moderation. It was just a moderation thing. That was it. I was back on dating apps, but at least I was here. At least I was in the church again. Thanks, God. Thanks for getting me out of the jail cell. Thanks for all that. I just got to moderate. But what I also started doing as well is I started going to our 12-step group called Serenity. By osmosis, the things started getting pounded into my head. And then January 8th, 2022, came the brick wall of all brick walls. I was out with a friend doing some partying about an hour and a half away from town. I told him, hey, I got worship band the next day. I got to be back at like 8 a.m., so I can't be out that late. Let's just in moderation. Well, we're out till 2 a.m. We get back to whatever little hotel and stuff at 2:30. I took MDMA for the first time. And we get back. He goes to sleep right away. And I have red pill, blue pill. Go to sleep like he's doing. At least gets, some sort of sleep. Or stay up all night, do the white powdery stuff with this, random stranger in this random hotel room. And just pull an all-nighter. Oh, of course I'm going to do that. Because, rock and roll, right? I haven't learned anything, right? Yeah. By the time I got back into this building, on this stage, the bass guitar in my hand, I was right back on top of that mountain again. High-fiving people during the 2-minute coffee break. You're welcome. You're welcome. I did that. And, we often forget that we serve a God that, yes, is loving, yes, is kind, yes, has compassion, but make no mistake, has accountability. Don't forget Job, who did nothing wrong and lost everything. Yes, got everything back, but did nothing wrong and lost everything. And so here I am, 6-7 months prior, ego inflated, cursing God, doing all this stuff, and now I'm just in moderation. What goes up must come down, and it did. Only this time, I didn't have a jail cell to sleep it off. I had my uncle's couch and the real world. And the psychosis this time sucked. Big time. This time it was 7 hard months of who am I? Where am I? Are these my family members, or are these demons in disguise? My family members were afraid of me, were worried that what was going on was permanent. I was afraid of what was going on was permanent. I tried to self-delete multiple times. And the psychosis, again, wasn't just, oh, this is scary. It was reality. And it continued and continued and continued, and I would go get help, and they would say, here, try this. Here, try this plus this. Here, try this plus this, and we'll take away this next time. And nothing would work. And I would look down from a tall bridge, and I would go over the logic, and I would walk away, and I would sit in a car with some duct tape, a hose, a duct tape on the other end, and then I'd get out, and I'd go, well, the movies are full of some hot air because that didn't work. And then finally, the last time, I was sitting in the backyard of my uncle's house, chain smoking cigarettes, 'Cause every cigarette would be the last cigarette before a meteor would fall or the torture would begin. And I called the crisis line. They told me they'd call back. So I said, if they don't call back within 15 minutes, I'm going to go inside, grab the Costco-sized bottle of Benadryl, grab the bottle of the liquid, the yellow liquid, and go to sleep because no one cares. And that's what was going through my mind. My internal monologue was, no one cares. No one cares. No one cares. 20 minutes goes by. No one cares. No one cares. Benadryl in my mouth. Grab the bottle. Hand shaking. Put it to my lips. No one cares. No one cares. And then finally, another voice comes. I care. I put the bottle down. I spit out the pills, and the last pill falls out, or close to. I don't know the exact details of this moment because it was such a traumatic moment. Who walks in? My uncle. He just walks in. Doop-de-doop-de-doop-de-doo. Hey, what's going on? I tell him, hey, this is what just happened. I need help. And so I get connected with the VA. They send me down to this place in Rancho Cordova area. I go there for 34 days. I get grounded. Groups, break, more groups, lunch, meals, walks, art therapy, acupuncture, Bible reading, the 4 agreements, just bam, 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 plus medication management, plus one-on-one therapy, but everything. And it was great. And when I got back home, I was 99.7% back. But that 0.3% was still kind of off, right? And after a couple weeks of overstimulation from crowds, or 666 on a license plate, or someone saying, Mario, you're such a savior, I finally said, you know what? I think I need to go and just have a moment with God tonight. So I told my uncle, I said, hey, I'm going to lock myself in my room tonight. Don't worry, I'm good. And after what we had just been through, he said, okay, well, it's the lock's on the outside, so just letting you know. And I went to bed at like 7 o'clock. Locked myself in the room. Got down on my knees. And I just sobbed and cried for, I don't even know. I just cried myself to sleep. Ugly snot coming out. And I didn't feel the guilt. I didn't feel, finally, Mario, finally you get it. Finally you're on your knees surrendering to me. Finally you bow down to the King. I didn't get any of that from God. and from Jesus. I felt my Creator crying with me, with his arms around me, reminding me how loved I am. The same way that I had felt in the psychosis, and the same way that I'd felt in the jail cell, that he wasn't far away, and he wasn't shouting instructions on how to get out from the outside and take a left turn there and then go there and you're good. He was there. He was with me in the trenches, in the fire. Because he doesn't live high up on a mountain in a pantheon or whatever. He came and he suffered there. He came and he dined and he dwelt with us. And then he died for us. And I felt that. And I woke up the next morning. And for the first time since I was 8 years old, I had felt peace. And I had seen this world as something beautiful and redeemable. And it was just Chico, California. It wasn't Sonoma, California and wine country. It wasn't the beach. It wasn't, Morocco. It wasn't anything special, but it was something special. It was God's creation. And I finally saw that, and something in me snapped and changed. And I stopped taking my medication that day, and I called my mental health team, and I told them how I felt, and I told them I didn't want to take my medication. And they worked with me over the next couple weeks. And more, I weaned off. Finally, my uncle asked, "Are you taking your medication?" I said, "No." He goes, so that's probably not a good idea. Well, I've been talking to my mental health team, and they're doing it's trust me, I'm doing this the right way. I said, "Okay." And I throw in the disclaimer that if you were taking meds, first of all, nothing is impossible for God. Did I get a miracle? Am I going to use the M word? Absolutely. Am I being monitored still and monitoring myself with my mental health team today? Absolutely. Am I back on meds right now? I'm not going to disclose that. Personal information. But I'm also not going to tell you what God can and can't do. And I'm also going to not tell you what your doctor can and can't recommend to you. So please continue to listen to your medical professionals and your mental health professionals, because I do as well. And what happened after that day was I continued to walk in the sunlight of the Spirit, one step at a time, one moment at a time. And things didn't all get better at once. I still struggled with things right away. My psychosis was almost immediately fixed, but it continued to linger on, just not in the driver's seat. More like in the trunk, tied up, finally. And then all of a sudden, it was finally in another car on the highway. And then I got called into more and more service needs here at the church. One of those things was singing. I didn't know that I was a singer. I still don't think I'm a singer. But people do, and I love that. I love when people say, you did such a good job. And I always tell people, it's not my doing, it's God. Because it really is. Because whenever I say, I can't do that, and it's a need that God has, God goes, oh, okay. Write that one down. Yeah, we'll see you in 2 years, Mario. And now I'm leading worship in multiple places because that's what the church needed. And then I started hanging out with kids in youth group who were just like me and needed somebody just to be there. And yeah, I still had stuff to work on. And no, I wasn't there alone. I had other adults that were there that were accountable and holding me accountable and were, obviously in the middle of all of that. But I started serving at Serenity and youth group and the worship band. And then all of a sudden, things started bugging me more. So I started getting rid of them more. Habits and ways that I treated people and talked to people. And it was an ongoing improvement. And then God was like, I think you're ready to meet your wife that I've been playing Ring Around the Rosie with you two for your whole life. And we met, and right off the bat, fell head over heels in love with her, but had things that I was working on and was afraid of loving somebody and didn't want to admit that I was in love. And then, of course, she, she did her thing, won me over. I couldn't deny it. And we got engaged in a hot air balloon. And it was in St. George, Utah, because I had to make peace with the land and also give my lawyer a super awesome plaque and go back to Angel's Landing and hike up the trail, clothed this time, And and the things that she has done for me have been worth their weight in gold and more. I could do an entire 2 hours more and talk about the love that she has shown me and taught me, the ways of how healthy of a communicator that I've become, more of a healthy communicator I've become, how much better of a word user I am. She's gonna love this. As I'm fumbling to use my words, just she completes me. She's the other half of me. I mean, we are one flesh. And she truly is the person that God had been waiting my whole life for me to get my act together before I could meet. And I'm glad that I got all of my crap out of the way before I met her. Because that guy definitely would have messed things up big time. And even the guy that she met had some close calls. But when we stood in front of each other, when we exchanged vows, it was the best day of my life. And when we bought our house, it got richer. And when we started learning each other's isms, and when we started, just every single day is new. Learning that she loves fresh flowers. Learning that she loves love letters. I mean, she knows what I'm talking about. Her Felicia 101 list. Ladies, don't be afraid to give your husband a shared Apple Note with all of the things that you love. And men, it is not a weakness to have from your wife and your woman a shared Apple Note, because we all have ADHD and we're all busy guys. And I'm telling you, happy wife, happy life, get that note, start paying attention to it, start doing one thing off of it weekly, bi-weekly, at minimum, and just do your best. Clean up your side of the bed, literally and metaphorically. And that's all we could do. But treat her like Jesus treats the church, because that's what we're called to do, with love and compassion. And it's hard. It's hard because we're human. We all get frustrated. We all are short-tempered. And there are days where you wake up from poor sleep or a long week or people bickering at you. But choose your battles. And I'm going off track, but she is more than everything I've ever wanted. And a couple days from now, she's bringing our son into this world. And I said it last episode, and I'll say it again. That is one of the contributing factors of why I'm doing this. And why between this episode and the next episode, there might be a little bit of a gap. Because it's something that I love, but I'm not obligated to. It's something that I'm passionate about, but I don't have a strict timeline on. I want to do it. I don't need to do it. I love to do it. But my wife's mouth and my mouth are not going to be fed any less based on me not doing this. But I want to end with where we go from here is getting people on here, maybe talking longer than this. I don't know. Maybe talking less than this. Maybe they have much less things to say. I don't know what it looks like, me sitting on that chair, reacting, crying with them, laughing with them. Like I said, I don't know yet. But I'm really excited. I'm excited to just do this and have started this journey, because I'll share with you that doing this project has brought me some of the most immense joy and peace that I've had in a very long time. And it's because I know that even if my mom, my wife, and my uncle are my only viewers, that it's something that I get to do. That I'm not locked up in chains, and that I'm not serving a 10 to 12 year prison sentence that I deserve, that I'm not in a grave that I deserve, that I have a beautiful wife and a home and our son on his way, and it's all thanks to the guy that stood up there and gave his life for me and gave his life for you. Whether you subscribe to that or not, I believe that. And my evidence for that being true is everything that you just heard. And you can't take that away from me. And I hope you respect that, because I respect whatever your evidence is of belief or not belief. And I'm not going to try to convince you either way. I'm just going to tell you what I know and where I've been, because that's what this is. And the more that we start breaking bread with each other and getting to common ground and sharing a hug and a brotherly kiss, the more that this place starts turning into somewhere that's a more hospitable place to live. And I think, I don't know, that sounds like a good idea to me. So, there it is.